Welcome to The Greater Good, first episode. We're here at 239 Studios, and thanks to Tim and Diana for that. We're really looking forward to setting the tone for this series today, so no pressure, Shannon.
No pressure. Guest number one. Don't mess it up.
That's right. So we have Shannon Livingston is here with us today. And so you know a little bit about The Greater Good. The Greater Good is a show created to share untold stories of purpose, inspiration, and hope. We're focusing on individuals joining together to build stronger communities and change the world for the greater good.
So, I love that.
Yeah.
No small feat. Just change the world for the greater good.
I mean, if you're gonna have a mission, right?
Yeah.
Might as well shoot for the moon.
We're just gonna change the world. Yeah, that's our mission.
Look, no worries. People have been doing that for years. So, Shannon, thank you for taking time out of your day to do this. You also have a podcast here at 239. What was that?
I do. I have a podcast here that is called the SOB podcast that I do with my son. And it is a beautiful studio. And I just love any opportunity to be in here. So thank you for having me.
Well, it's our pleasure. And I'm so excited to be back in the studio. This is where I kind of, actually cut my chops. Is that what you say? Cut your chops?
You and I both have radio in our background, right? Only I think they paid you more regularly than they paid me.
They paid me.
I was a guest a lot.
They paid me in stickers, T-shirts, and movie passes.
Oh, okay. So we got the same pay.
Right. Yeah. I couldn't, pay my rent with that, but
right.
It did buy me some time. It's like, until you find some money, well, yeah. Well, so we really want to dig in today and talk about you wear so many different hats. And I think we all have to, because that's how we put food on the table.
Yeah.
But you wear a lot of different hats, and it's not because I don't think that's because it's a necessity for you. I think it's because you just enjoy being out there doing a lot of different things. Share with our viewers, what is it that you do?
The things that I do.
Yeah.
I do a lot of things because that is how my brain functions. I like to skip around, but then I like it to all kind of dovetail together as well. So my main job, which I absolutely love, is I am the development director for the Sunlight Home of Collier County. And that means that I get to go out and talk to people all day long about the good work that we're doing at Sunlight Home, which I know we're going to talk about. And I also, there's not a lot of money in the nonprofit world. So what I do really, so what I do really is, it is a mission of love for me. They do pay me, but where we live is a little more expensive than some other places. So I also sell real estate. I've been in real estate for about 15 years. And I'm to the point where I only take on clients that I enjoy and that appreciate my services. And that really helps me to supplement my income. I also take a percentage of my commission and donate that back to Sunlight Home. So it helps our mission as well. And then I recently got certified as an auctioneer. So I have done some, I would say, celebrity auctioneer jobs, but I think I'm the only one to call myself a celebrity, so I should not say that. Some free auctioneer jobs around town for different nonprofits and schools, and it was something that I really enjoy, and I see the need for it in other nonprofits. In the charity world, we all know each other. We all talk about who we're using as vendors, how we're making money. And so being an auctioneer is a very powerful way to help other nonprofits raise money if you do it the right way. And so going to school, I learned I was not always doing it the right way and learned better ways. So that is also another thing that I can do to help my nonprofit, other nonprofits in town, because we're all serving the same people. So this idea of being competitive, I guess, with nonprofits has always been a little silly to me. And I think we're really starting to see a more collaborative vibe out there. So, coming back to the show, I'm excited to have people all in one place at Greater Good, learning what nonprofits do and how much we actually do work together for the community and to get things done.
Yeah, I mean, it's really the only way to get things done.
Yes.
I mean, you can be an island to yourself.
Right.
But I mean, you're only going to be able to accomplish so much. And so that, and I always refer back to this. I know, Hope, and I'm sure she's sick and tired of hearing this, but I believe growing up, my coach always said, it's about the team. It's about the team. But he also went on to say, team is together, everyone achieves more.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, that's really what the greater good's all about. We really want to talk about how, how you can get involved, how people, so much in life, man. I just see people unsatisfied with their station, unsatisfied. But when you take yourself out of it not being about you and you put some service above self,
Right.
you find out that, oh man, I do get fulfilled, but my fulfillment is not in my everyday, my day to day. But if I go out there and I help people, then you start to see that, and
Yeah.
it's encouraging, and it helps with your mood, and hopefully it does. Otherwise, look, you need some therapy.
Well, I probably need therapy anyway, so I'm
Well,
not saying that's not true.
everybody can use therapy.
Everybody could use some, but
Yeah.
I do wake up excited every single day, and it sounds so cheesy, I know, but I wake up excited every day, even on the weekend, to do my work, whether
Yeah.
that is, helping somebody at Sunlight Home, helping to spread that message, helping somebody with their real estate, consulting with another nonprofit on their fundraising. It all really gives me a huge sense of purpose. And I just cannot believe, especially given, my, I don't want to say background. That doesn't sound good, but maybe my upbringing, my childhood, and some of the obstacles that I have overcome. Sometimes I really have to pinch myself and say, "Am I living this life? Am I really in a position now where I'm able to help other people, and this is how I get paid?" It's just unbelievable to me, really, from day to day.
Well, yeah, you put that good out there and it does come back. And yeah, it's kind of surreal to sit back and kind of take a 10,000-foot view of your own
Yeah,
self and life and your journey along the way.
right.
So, well,
I mean, this is a Friday afternoon, and we're sitting in a very cool studio, and this is my job.
yeah.
How
No,
incredible is that?
you are a celebrity. That means
Well, I'm a celebrity in this room, and so I'll own that. Thank you.
well, so you mentioned your upbringing. So you want to share a little bit about where you're from. Look, we're not going to talk sports at this point. I'm
Oh, I
sitting
was so
across the
close.
table from a Chiefs fan, and I'm a Bengals fan. So,
And we're still friends.
and we're still friends. But that's because
We don't talk about it.
well, during football season, we
Right.
will. But the main thing is, yeah, we can still be friends. Football, though, it's a tough one.
It's tough, but our love of people will overcome
they
our
will.
difference in our fans.
But you're from there, right?
I'm from Kansas City, Missouri, not Kansas. People don't seem
know
to know the
geography.
difference, and it is just the most irritating thing for us that are from Missouri. So I'm from Kansas City, Missouri, and actually grew up in a small suburb, a very working class town, Grandview, Missouri. My father was an attorney, and my mother worked for him, but he was the type of attorney that didn't really get paid a whole lot. He instead would accept barter. He really stood up for the underdog. And I'm sure that is why I am the way that I am today. He liked a good fight, and really could not handle any type of injustice. And so he used his position as an attorney to help people. And we would have people that would come over and pay their legal bill by, doing plumbing or painting the house. And I'm sure that none of these people were actually licensed. They had no talent. The house looked terrible. It was just falling down around us. But that was important to him, as cranky as he was. And as a child, again, I didn't see it. I didn't see the pro bono work or the bartering for being what it was. But he was helping people with their life and letting them pay off any way that they could, very similar To Kill a Mockingbird. That is how my father got paid. It wasn't a sack of potatoes or whatever, but it was maybe a pinball machine or so I was always, I think I had that as my example, that when you have a position of authority or power, that it is your obligation to help those that don't, to help the more vulnerable people. So growing up, my family had its own dysfunction, a generational dysfunction. And my parents did the best they could, but I still had my own issues from how I was raised, different things that happened to me. And at 18, I was pregnant and decided that I wanted to have my child and place it for adoption. And that is what I did. I had the first legal open adoption in the state of Missouri, and very proud of that. It was 1992, and we had to go and get special permission for the case to even be heard in front of the judge because it hadn't happened before. You were not supposed to know the people that were adopting your child. Everything was supposed to be anonymous. And I had already met this couple. I met a woman. I was going to college at the time and met her in class and then met her husband and just really felt like it was meant to be, that these are the people that I wanted to raise this child. You know, they had tried, I think, 8 times to have in vitro fertilization that, didn't work. And finally, she just had a complete hysterectomy, gave up on children, gave up on adoption. They had tried to adopt through Catholic charities, were told that they weren't Catholic enough, and just kind of lost heart in the whole thing.
Weren't Catholic.
They were not
Not
Catholic
quite
enough.
sure what not Catholic enough is.
Yeah. And, the world has changed. Here we are
Sure.
30 years later. I hope that that has changed also. But that really was kind of the climate of adoption, and very expensive. Of course, we still see that it's prohibitive for a lot of people. But on my side, being 18, being pregnant, not having the support of my family, they did not think that I should go through with the pregnancy. They did not think that I should place that child for adoption. They thought it was something that was really either I wasn't going to go through with it, or it was going to destroy me as a person, or they just weren't on board. So I was very isolated. Going through that period. And of course, 18-year-olds don't want to hang out with a pregnant 18-year-old. So most of my friends, they had gone to college or they just disappeared. So that was hard enough. But the hardest thing of that time period, and really why I am so committed to our residents at Sunlight Home, is at 18 years old, I was trying to do the right thing and did not have any support from the general public. In fact, they were very cruel at times. I remember, nurses being like really mean to me when I told them that the baby was going to be adopted. I remember being in a hospital elevator and having a woman look at me and just shake her head and said, "Babies having babies. What a shame." Neighbors refused to speak to me. There were people in my life that I had known, for years and years, that really let it be known that they thought it was a shameful thing that I was 18 years old and pregnant.
So you were completely ostracized by your entire community.
Yes.
So
Yes.
The opposite of what should have happened.
And yet around me, I'm hearing, the abortion debate and how wonderful it is to have your baby instead of having an abortion. And, that was not applied to me. There was no, "You're doing such a wonderful thing." And what a sacrifice to be 18 alone, have no support, and still feel like this is what you need to do and follow through with it.
So you're internalizing absolutely all of this.
Absolutely. Yeah.
18. I mean, you're not even fully baked yet at that
Right.
point, right?
My
You're
frontal lobe is still growing.
Right, that's right. Exactly. So, I mean, that speaks volumes about your character, that you were, no matter the circumstance you were facing, you were willing to go through and give this baby the best, the absolute very best. So, I mean, how did you get the gumption? I know I sound like a slack-jawed yokel when I say that, but where did that fire and that fuel come from to stay your course, or what caused you to stay that course?
I have no idea, because I was raised in a very pro-choice environment, and so it certainly was not, something that was ingrained in me, in my family, in church, anything like that. It really was just my intuition. My gut has always told me what to do. I'm very stubborn. for better or worse, and I stick to my guns. And so I trust my internal moral compass, and I know what's right for me. And that may not be what's right for someone else, but I know what's right for me. And I follow that. And anytime I don't follow that, anytime I compromise myself a little bit in that way, it doesn't work out. So I've learned my lesson that no matter how lonely it is, no matter how difficult it is, no matter how crazy it may seem in that moment, if I follow my gut, my heart, my internal moral compass, things are going to work out the way that they're supposed to. So I know it sounds really naive, and there was no philosophy behind it or anything else. It really was just a feeling of this is right and this is what I'm doing.
Man, that is a heavy burden to bear as an 18. Well, actually, it's a heavy burden to bear, period, to bear alone.
And at the time I really didn't look at it like that. Like I
Yeah.
think I was maybe in shock and naive and whatever you want to call it. But it has been through, that was 31 years ago. So it's been over the past 31 years that I have really seen the evolution of adoption, that I have seen the evolution of teen pregnancy, how we treat girls that do get pregnant, and how they deal with that. Because my friends were also getting pregnant, but having abortions quietly, and no one judged them because no one knew. But you cannot hide a pregnancy. So
True.
as much as you may want to try, people are going to find out. So having shame attached to that certainly does not encourage young girls to go through with their pregnancy and look at adoption as an option, or not just adoption, to look at, is this really something that I can do, and how do I find the resources to make that happen? How do I build my life in a way that I can take care of my baby and myself, and make this work? And that is so overwhelming for most girls that find themselves in that position, no matter what your situation is. So if you come from a dysfunctional family, if you are homeless, if you are in an abusive relationship, if you are actively being trafficked, and these are all things that we deal with at Sunlight Home, it can really seem impossible to have that choice of having your baby and either raising the baby or maybe placing it for adoption. We do have about 10% of our residents choose adoption, and we counsel them through that. They are still welcome and encouraged to stay in the program, stay in the home, and finish the education and employment resources and everything that we offer them so that they can build their life. Because we are about every life, and we are about respecting those women and respecting those girls that come to us for the work that they have ahead of them and the commitment that they have made to do that. We do not judge where they have come from. I think one of the biggest things that has changed in society is Sunlight Home 29 years ago was a place for pregnant girls to go and sometimes be hidden by their families because of the shame, because of their pregnancy. And now we are seeing so many more layered problems with addiction, homelessness, trafficking, mental illness. Medical issues are even more complicated. And there are just so many layers of what people need out there in the world. And so seeing people get more and more vulnerable is very difficult. And to know that that is just going to be a cycle that continues for the babies that they're bringing into their lives unless we step in and help them help themselves.
Well, how was it that, I'm sure maybe I'm wrong. I mean, was Sunlight Home the only choice to help people in this predicament? I mean, and then taking away all of those other layers. There's one primary need and primary challenge out there. Why did you choose Sunlight Homes as your charity? Why were they doing it better?
They found me, actually.
Oh, okay.
And maybe it was divine intervention. Who knows? But again, going back to real estate, My friend from real estate told me about this organization that she had found and asked me to MC as a D-list celebrity, to MC their fashion show. And I wanted to really get to know the charity before I stepped on stage
Sure.
and represented them or talked about them. And once I saw the home, and really not just saw it, once I felt the home. And you've been to Sunlight Home, so you know what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
It's a home, it's a house, it's
It
not an
is.
institution. And when you walk in, you can feel the love that we have for them. You know, we are a Christian program, and that means more than just Bible study and attending church. That means that we, the staff, the volunteers, we show our residents that they are worthy and that they are loved by our behavior, by the love that Jesus showed people. That's what we're supposed to be doing every single day.
Mhm.
And it's not always easy because they test us. They don't trust anyone, right? They
Especially at this point.
oh my gosh, and you can't blame them. So you have to
Yeah.
be ready for that. You have to meet them where they are. And some of them may kick and spit and fight and cuss. I mean, it's not always a pretty thing over at Sunlight Home. But to take years and years of neglect and abuse and just feeling disposable and feeling like their babies are disposable, and then coming into a place where we say we love you just for being here, that's enough. We love you, we don't care where you've been, what you've done to survive, anything else. We're just going to take you as you are and make you love yourself, because that is at the core of it. We can teach them finances and cooking and job skills and everything else, but until they really learn to love themselves, none of it is going to change.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's for everybody, not just people in this
Yes.
situation.
Right.
You have to get comfortable in your own skin before you can even actually, I would challenge people and say, before you even try and be in a relationship, period, you need to love your own self. You can't possibly know how to love somebody else
Right.
and speak their love language until you understand your own.
Well, and we see these girls too. They don't know how to nurture their babies. If you've never seen nurturing,
If you've never
how
been
would you
nurtured,
right? How would you know that? And
yeah.
it's not that they are uncaring or evil or selfish or any of the things that it may appear to be from the outside looking in. We have to teach them that. We
Mhm.
have to show
Yeah.
them that. We have to show them what love looks like every single day. And it takes a long, long time. So our residents, we hope to have them for 2 to 3 years, and that still is not long enough. You're talking about, again, generations of abuse and dysfunction that
Now,
come
I
to
gotta I
us.
gotta stop you there. So when you say generational abuse,
Hmm.
I need to understand that. So
Right.
what
That's more than just a phrase, right? What does that
it
mean
is?
when
I
I
need
say
to
that?
understand what is generational abuse. I mean, obviously, I understand generations, but I mean, can you elaborate on that for me?
So, it's not just that sometimes the family is the one being abusive, or the family, oftentimes is the one involved in trafficking, especially when they're children. 42% of child sex victims of child sex trafficking are trafficked by their family. And so it's not always that extreme. It can just be as much as they have never seen a good model of healthy behavior.
Right.
They have never
Right.
seen a good model of a good relationship. They don't have an Uncle Matt that can take them out and be that pressure release when they need it. They don't have a grandmother that can step up when the parents are not able to take care of the children because the grandmother has their own problems, and maybe the great grandmother. So we just see these things repeating and repeating. That is the cycle that we talk about. You have to break that cycle because they don't know any better. It's not that they have made terrible decisions their whole life and now they're homeless and pregnant, and they should just pull themselves up by the bootstraps and make better decisions. We're talking about some of these people that have been trafficked and raped and come to us at 14 years old. 14 years old, pregnant from their trafficker. Family may have been involved in that. And And still I hear comments from the community like, well, why should we pay for their mistakes? Why should we take care of these girls that don't just keep their legs closed? I mean, this is 2023 and I'm still hearing these comments. She didn't make a mistake. There was no choice in that. And
Exactly.
and that is a very extreme example, but that also applies to sometimes they're trying to get by. Sometimes they come from a background of prostitution to make money to take care of kids that they already have. Like, you don't know what these people are doing to survive, and you don't know how they got there to where they feel like that is normal to them. So what seems really abnormal and crazy and dysfunctional to people that haven't been immersed in that
Sure.
is absolutely the norm for somebody that has only seen that. So when we talk about generational trauma and generational dysfunction, that's what I'm talking about.
Well, we're seeing something similar. And thank you for explaining that to me, because I'm ignorant of that. But I think we're seeing this now more, and maybe it's because I'm a Gen Xer, you're a Gen Xer. We had to figure stuff out.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be real. We just had to figure it out. We were all latchkey kids.
Yes.
And
no one really cared.
We're left to our own devices.
Are you on fire? No. Okay. Figure it out.
And not because of for any other reason, but I mean, our families were either split up, or like my mom had to work 3 jobs.
Right.
I mean, so yeah. And my sister was a very important person in my life, and she hated having to babysit me all the time, especially when she's a junior and senior in high school and she's dealing with her 8th grade brother. But
very uncool.
Yeah, totally. And so, that was okay because she had a bunch of friends and they just beat me up all the time. So it made me tough. but let me get back on track. Nowadays people are saying, well, they should just know.
Right.
Because unfortunately, they don't know.
No.
And they don't have the skills to go out there and do it, because everything's so much easier now. Everything's on an app. I mean, there's an app for everything now.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I'm dating myself and I sound so old when I say this, but you can't expect a 14-year-old to just be like, oh, well, she needs to be able to take care of herself and figure this out. She's 14.
Mm-hmm.
Or she's 12, or even if she's 18, these people, if they've not been in an environment that can teach them, number one, coping mechanisms and really how to think through something clearly and not emotionally, which is a real difficult thing as an adult, much less as a child, an adolescent, or a teenager. So yeah, those are some things that we as a society and a community need to come together. First, we need to realize that's a challenge. We need to be patient, not just with ourselves, but with others. And we've got to, maybe they don't know.
Right. They don't know. It's not their fault. And even if it was their fault, how does that help correct anything?
Right. Yeah. How does that
we're moving
resolve
forward.
this issue?
Right. And so either we're going to be compassionate and solution oriented and think, okay, how do we stop what's going on that's harmful? Because it's not just harmful to them, it's harmful to society. So, while I do have a heart for service, the logical part of me knows this is better for my community if I can take these women and educate them and empower them and make them independent and make them contribute to society rather than depend upon it. And when you give somebody dignity, it's a game changer, and it's more than just a job. It's them learning that they can do it because they have been told their whole life that they are nothing and that they can do nothing. And it is that mindset more than anything, even more than circumstance, that holds people back. And so really, again, breaking down their walls and giving them the time to learn to trust us and trust themselves and see, why should I listen to these people at Sunlight Home? Some of them have come from foster homes where the people that were supposed to love them and take care of them did not. And I don't want to say that about all foster homes. I have friends that foster doing a beautiful job. But not every situation is a great one. Even some of our group programs that try to fill that void, not a great fit for every kid. So you do have these people that come from different walks of life And again, it's not the old, oh, we're going to hide this pregnancy now because we don't want people to know that our daughter is pregnant.
Right.
You know, now it's she's been trafficked since she was 4, and we have to intervene and make sure that she is kept safe. We do not have a sign outside of our home because of some of these situations.
Sure, yeah.
And it's not all, trafficking, of course, but most of the cases do involve abuse and neglect, at least from the father of the child. And we are very pro family. So we would love to have these men step up and reunite these families, reunite these women and the fathers of the children. But that's not always the healthiest thing either. So if we don't give them independence and really empower them to have that, and also teach them, this is the example of what a happy family looks like. This is what your life can be, because we're so good as a society at preaching at people, when all you have to do is be that model. If you're loving life and things are going well for you, people are going to want to know how to get them some of that, right?
Yeah,
And that's
100%,
it.
yeah.
So just be a good model, be a good person, and show people love. And that is really the foundation of what we do. We lead with love.
Yeah, I mean, it all goes back to leading by example. And some of the best leaders are down in the trenches with their people.
Well, there are leaders and then there are bosses, right?
Yes,
And
big difference
I
between
love
those two.
learning from a leader. I don't like being bossed around.
That's right.
And so that is another thing, at Sunlight, we have to empower them to make their own decisions with gentle guidance. And we do have fairly strict rules when they come in. We do a 30-day with no phone. They have
How
to.
in the heck do you implement that?
Well, and they almost always have a burner phone, so again, the world has changed and we have to understand technology. We have to know the apps that they have. And how to control some of that, because we really do have to isolate them to a certain extent for a little bit and push that reset button and just get them to think totally differently, that they are not an accessory to someone else, that they are not here just to be some sexualized version of entertainment, that that they can have a good life, they are worth it, and they can do it. I think some of these girls not only do they feel like, oh, I could never go to college or I could never own a business, because not everybody goes to college either.
Right.
So,
and college isn't always the right answer for every person.
Right. So showing them that, yes, you can learn how to be a nurse or a chef or a carpenter or whatever it is that you want to do.
You can,
absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
And, that is part of what we do, is figuring out what are they good at? What do they like? What's going to make them happy? And helping them with a job skill like that, because they just don't even know how to consider the possibilities. Yeah. They only know how to survive day to day. And that is, again, going back to fault, that's not their fault. That's right. What they've done. And once we teach them better, then they can do better.
Well, you've spoken about programs. And so obviously you can't just throw them in the deep end. You've got to start gradually. I mean, it's just like walking up to a stray.
Right.
They're going to be very skittish at first.
Yeah. They're going to bite you.
Yeah.
Don't try to give them kisses in the face,
if
please.
You're lucky, that's all they'll do.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's horrible to compare people to dogs, but it is a very very accurate comparison.
It's a feral response.
Abuse. Well, yeah. Once you've been abused, you learn not to trust.
Exactly.
So
and you've got walls up.
Yeah. So those baby steps of earning their trust, it really is just sitting with them in the moment. So, we can have big speeches and motivational speakers and, even the Bible study and all of that, and hope that is making a change in them. But the biggest thing is just sitting and listening. not even talking, like, because they've had a lot of people talking to them and at them
At
for a
them.
long
There's a
time.
lot of that at them
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
And, a lot of times they're not able to discover the layers of their own abuse in their background until they find a safe place to talk. So, they may not consider themselves to have been abused or trafficked or whatever the situation is. And then once you really get them relaxed and comfortable and trusting enough to start talking about what they have experienced, you then start to see their trauma on a totally different level. So the way that we treat them when they first come in, we may think we know their story, and we're at first going to work on, health. Obviously, they're going to go to the doctor. They're going to, go to the therapist. We're going to take care of whatever physical, mental needs that they have. Then we're going to work on GED or education. Then we're going to work on employment and job skills. And then the whole time working on life skills. If they've never seen fresh food and they've never had a place to cook, how would they know how to do that once they come to Sunlight Home? So it is a lot of those baby steps without being condescending, without being judgmental. I can't say, what? You've never seen fresh basil? I mean, that,
Right.
Where would they?
Right.
And all the fine dining restaurants that they've been to. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So baby stepping, it really is just time, having enough time for them to not just do the work on their life, but to be able to decompress, feel safe, and build a trusting enough relationship with us where we can really get to the root of what they have experienced to be able to provide them with the resources that they need. They all need something generally, but once we really get to know them and their specific needs, then I think that is where we can start to do the biggest healing. But it has to come with that trust, and you can't force it.
No, that takes a lot of time, especially if you haven't had I don't know that there's a traditional upbringing anymore.
Right.
I mean, the whole nuclear family doesn't exist.
Right.
So
that would freak us out. If we walked into that
Absolutely.
family of like a Leave It to Beaver family, we would ask what drugs they were on.
100%.
But
Yeah.
isn't that a shame that
It is.
we have gotten away from having what we would consider to be an ideal family? Yes, families come in all different shapes and sizes, and I don't want to say we should go back to 1955, but there is some tradition. There's some value to the traditional way that things were done, in that it was a family unit, it was a safe place. And again, I understand that the pretense of what was going on in a lot of households may be different. I'm not trying to be Pollyanna about it, but there was just a more commitment to at least raising your kids.
In a structure. There was a structure.
And
to
they
it.
had value, and they were not an obligation. They were
Right.
not seen as a burden, as something to drop off so that you could go to work and do whatever.
Yeah.
Your kids were your life, and that was your legacy, and family was a big deal. And I would like to see us have a little bit more of that.
Well, it's why you were saying, we were at that event at Connor Gaskin's, and it was geared towards appealing to the men, right?
Mhm.
And so I think that's a good opportunity to say, so why is it so important that men support Sunlight
Yeah.
Homes, and why was that? And was that a successful event?
So it has been my mission coming on as development director to get more businesses involved and to get more men involved. Really, because we have been supported by a core group of women and churches, but really a core group of women that have done this work for 29 years. Very quietly, they've been writing checks, they've been mentoring, they've been, driving women to the doctor and the grocery store and whatever else needs to be done. But they are tired, and they're getting a little bit older, and they're ready to have someone else come along. And we also are going next level at Sunlight Home because of the need growing. We are growing. And so we just hired a CEO, and we have a guest speaker coming in for our dinner. Pam Tebow is coming in. And so really taking it to that next level. as I said. What was your question before? You're gonna have to edit that out because I spaced that.
That's okay. No.
Men, that's what. Okay,
Yeah.
so we'll go back to that.
Exactly.
Yeah. So taking it to the next level means that we need to involve more people than what we have had in the past, obviously. And I would love to see more men being involved, not just because I think it is your duty. I raised a young man and I raised him to feel that he is his brother's keeper and his sister's keeper.
Hmm.
And so when someone is in trouble, you step up and do what you can. So there is that. There is also, as you so beautifully led me into, we want them to see what good men look like. We want our residents to know that not all men are predatory. Not all men are out to just use you and abuse you and then get rid of you. There are good men in the world. Again, how are they going to know what to look for in a partner or a friend or a boss or anything else if they've never seen it? So surrounding them with a bunch of women and then expecting them to make good choices in men, I think is a little unrealistic. So I do tease my board members saying, we have to go out cruising for men, guys. We have to bring them into the
It's a
case.
whole new campaign.
Thank goodness they have a good sense of humor.
Sure.
People would think for a Christian nonprofit that deals with sometimes really, really dark and hard to deal with material, it is overwhelming. But we have our mission and we stay very, very committed to it. And you have to have a sense of humor. Unfortunately, the worse it is, the more you really have to not let yourself get sucked into it, because you do see such dysfunction and pain around you all day long. And being able to take my personal pain and turn that into purpose with my work at Sunlight Home is absolutely wonderful. But you have to also protect yourself from not absorbing everything that you see, because we can only heal so much at a time, and the world just keeps giving it to us. So, so having that, a good group and having a good sense of humor and a good sense of mission, I think really helps to keep me focused on it.
What's been the biggest benefit? And maybe it's a healing thing for you. What have you taken away thus far?
It really has been healing for me to feel like I've been able to, I guess, share my platform and position with these girls. I feel like they're under my umbrella of protection, and people know, don't look at them cross-eyed because I am gonna have words with you. That is not what we're doing here. So that does make me feel very, very fulfilled and important. But it has really been, I think the most surprising thing for me, the most surprising benefit is watching how my board does things. I have served a lot of nonprofits. I have been into a lot of board meetings, and there are always egos, and there are always, wasted conversations, and just a lot of stuff that shouldn't be. People lose sight of what the mission is and how to effectively serve that mission. And I have to say, my board is the opposite of that. They are absolutely fantastic people. The fact that they have chosen me to be part of their team has, I guess, validated me, because they are so good doing greater good. I feel like it makes me better because I'm part of them. And I just hope that that is how our Sunlight Home girls feel also, that we are something to really be proud of, and that this group has your back. And more than that, they have your soul. Actually, they're going to do everything they can to really love you with everything that they can in a selfless way. That it is not for our own benefit. It is, we do everything for our residents.
Yeah, and it's something, I think people take a lot of the things that you guys provide for granted, if they've not experienced this.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's just hard for them to wrap their head around it. As a business owner and a professional, how does this benefit a business to get involved? I mean, how has this benefited your business to get involved?
So I would say, as a business owner, you do have an obligation to your community. Your community supports you, And so it's, good to have a healthy community, of course. But I just think that we all have an obligation, no matter if it is personal or with our platform as our business. And it doesn't mean that you have to write a check. It doesn't mean that you always have to do things with money. If you can't afford that in your business, that's fine. But maybe you have a great building that you can open up and have an awareness event.
Sure.
Maybe you have a mailing list that you're willing to promote an event that a charity is doing. So you can really have that sense of purpose as a business, even if you're not able to make a financial investment, which I think is really important. And we are seeing more and more consumers expect that community support and community buy-in. They're going to support a company that they feel supports community.
Sure.
And so cause related marketing used to be, you'd see it every once in a while and, oh, how are they making money if they're also giving to nonprofits? And now it's kind of the expectation. And so to find a nonprofit that you can really align with and feel like, okay, this is good for our marketing, but this is also good for our community and good just for our morale. Employees love to be involved in something.
Mhm.
And so, that's another aspect that I think is really overlooked by people. Your employees want to help too. They live in that community. So if you can show them that you really care, that's going to make their productivity even better. So just so many different levels of how involvement and support of charities can help a business.
I think that speaks to, and one of the main reasons we want to do this show is I think that most people would find more joy in their work if they knew it was making a difference.
Yes.
So much of our fulfillment is tied to making a difference in our communities, whether we know it or not, or whether, we all just like me. And I was brought to my attention last week that not everybody reads comic books. So, but I always
Did that break your heart?
It kind of a little bit. A little bit of me died, but no. I mean, you always read about the greater good, and being being a champion for the underdog, and wanting to, and I just thought everybody had that.
Right.
And
Right. Exactly. You think, well, why aren't you doing these things?
Right.
It makes me so happy. And even without the payoff of the happiness, it's part of who we are. It's our drive. We have to listen to it. We have to follow our heart and our drive is one for service.
Absolutely. And that's where we go to that service above self. And you don't know the joy that comes from that until you do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so many people don't know about that because they haven't been taught. And that takes us full circle.
Yeah.
So thank you for taking the time today. We're getting close to our time, but I do have a couple more questions. But I do want you to share with our audience where can they go? First off, how can they find you?
Mm-hmm.
Because you can direct them, but also how can they find Sunlight Homes? How can they get involved?
So Sunlight Home has a great website that I am responsible for. So I hope it's great. It's at sunlighthome.org. You can also hunt me down on Facebook with all of the other old people that are clinging on to Facebook. I love it. I know that, people make fun of me for being on there, but we have so much connection with our community on Facebook. So not just the Sunlight Home page, but my personal page, you can always connect with me. I'm always out and about. So if you see me and you recognize me, not in a scary way, but please do introduce yourself. I don't want to be freaked out, but don't be not intimidated.
So
I don't want
just
to say
run
that.
up on you.
Don't just run up on me. But also, I get so many people that will send me a message later and say, "Oh, I saw you at the grocery store," or "I saw you wherever." Come up and talk to me.
Say hi.
Say hi, and ask for a tour at Sunlight Home. I would love to get people in there to really understand who we are and what we do. We are a home. We are a long-term program that these residents have to commit to and invest in their own success. We have changed. We have actually done construction. So it's not just the program changing while still holding true to our core mission, but we have done construction in the home to extend it and have a maternity side and a transition side. And so the first step in getting involved in Sunlight really is seeing what we do. So if I can get people to contact me and set up a tour, and then we can talk about the ways that would be meaningful for them to be involved. Again, we'd love to cash checks. We do need money to keep the lights on and keep the program going. And I don't ever want to refuse donations. That is at the heart of what we do. But we also just need people to pray for us and pray for our residents. We need people to care about what we're doing. We need people to, come by with dinner for these residents after they've worked all day, 8 months pregnant, because they do work. They don't just sit around the house. And so really encouraging people to, I guess, contact me personally, however you can, email, phone, through the website, run me down, not in the parking lot, literally, but run me down in town and find me. I'm always happy to talk about Sunlight Home and find a way to get people involved.
So I'm going to ask this of probably everybody that's on the show, but if there's one thing that you can do to help the greater good or leave the world a better place, what would be, if money was no object? I mean, what would it be?
If there was one thing that I could do, I think hopefully I'm doing it. Hopefully by telling my story and by being honest about my own pain, my own feelings, what I needed that I didn't get, mistakes that I made, whatever along the way. I hope that lets people see me as being relatable and authentic. I know what it's like to feel like you're in a hole that you just can't get out of. And so just being that voice to say, you're going to get out of that hole and I'm going to help you with it. It's okay. I'm here. You're not alone. So I think changing the world really is just about each one of us using our gifts and using our voice, and just trying to help others, trying to turn that pain into purpose.
Yeah. I am very grateful for you. Number one, as my friend. Number two, as just a pillar of the community, but also, my sister's adopted. We were talking about that before the show. And my sister's one of my best friends. I'm so grateful for her birth mother, Roxanne, because if it weren't for her making one of the hardest decisions you'll ever make in your life, I wouldn't have my sister today. And I love her dearly. And I'm grateful for Roxanne. I'm grateful for my sister being able to be a part of my family. And I know my mom and my dad are just over the moon. Probably my sister used to say this. It used to drive me crazy. She'd say, well, mom and dad got to pick me. They just got stuck with you.
That is true.
I mean, it's very true, but yeah, she's the best. And I'm just very grateful for the decision that you made. And no matter what anybody says, it was the right one.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And
Yeah.
I do feel that way. And, I have told you also, we have to be better to these birth mothers, whether they're keeping their children or placing for adoption. You have to treat people with some dignity. And placing your child for adoption does bring a lifelong grief. It's every day that I know I do not have my child, but it was the right decision. Good decisions and the right decisions aren't necessarily the easy ones. Oftentimes they're very difficult. And seeing that families just like yours, like seeing how much your face lights up when you talk about your sister and knowing that was your childhood and your life, and that somebody was able to do that for you and every person in your family. It absolutely makes me feel validated and honored. So thank you.
Thank you. So that's our show. This is our first sign off. So I am going to read this. So I hope nobody's too offended by that. But I got to make sure I don't forget anything. But I'm thank you for joining us today on The Greater Good. And we hope this leaves you feeling inspired. And if nothing else, it leaves you with hope. That's the important thing, is we want to put hope out there in the world. We want to put positivity out in the world. So if you want to learn more about The Greater Good, please go to my other company's website, which is Guerrilla Media. We're a full service production company. We do everything from feature films to TV shows to podcasts like this. And you can click on the Greater Good tab, and it's right there on the top, and you can learn all about this. This is where the episodes are going to be posted initially, but then they're also going to be available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon, Pandora, Facebook, LinkedIn, and a partridge and a pear tree. They're going to be everywhere. And then what we're going to do, we're always going to be looking for new sponsors and new people to be on the show. So if you know somebody with a story, if you're somebody with a story that's making a positive difference out there, that's a part of a nonprofit or a part of a business or just an everyday superhero, that's who we want to hear from. We want to hear from people that are not just talking about change, but are out there being about it. So I wanted to thank Tim and Diana today at Studio 239 here. Love this place. I'm hoping to spend a lot more time here. But again, if you'd like to be a guest or a sponsor, please get in touch with us at 239-450-5357. And you can help spread positive programming. I know that sounds so cheap. Help me spread positive, but seriously, help us spread.
It's better to spread that than other things.
It is. That's 1,000% right. So I want to leave you with this thought, and we're going to leave every show. We're going to sign off probably very similar to this, but how are you going to change the world today for the greater good? And whatever that is, just be sure to leave it better than you found it.